Okay, and just before the break, I am delighted to look at digital transformation and are we on the right lines or the right path? And our guide is going to be Juan Garcia Lopez, who is SVP of Technology and Ecosystems at Telefonica, which in many ways has been a terrific trailblazer. So Juan Carlos, thank you.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Annie, for the invitation. And I'm very happy to be here with you also, giving you a bit an overview of what is, our view on the evolution of digital transformation in the telecom operators. Well, my name is Juan Carlos Garcia. I'm in charge of technology innovation and ecosystems in Telefonica. And what I'm giving to you today is a bit of a personal, professional view and company view of this evolution. I'm working in Telefonica for 30 years now, and probably have seen quite a lot of what has happened in the telecom landscape. What we have observed is that probably the last 10 years have been amazing in terms of the changes that the industry has seen in all aspects. And what I will try to cover in this presentation is a bit some of these aspects. I will not try to be academic, so we will not be comprehensive and discuss about everything about digital transformation. We'd like to focus on a few points. No? So first of all, I would like to tell you what is for us the digital transformation. No? So there are many things around. One thing is how services are created, developed, rolled out, and withdrawn and managed. Another aspect is the nature of the network elements that is changing to be more software, and also the architecture of the network that is becoming more IT. Even the architecture of the systems that are supporting all these services is changing and also merging somehow with the network elements, with the network function. It is difficult to find the border now between the management systems and the network functions. Also, the way we supply the technology, we build the technology, we partner, and the business models. Also, the activity we run in the network to deliver the services is changing dramatically, coming from a very resource-intensive situation to, I would say, a target of full automation by design. Also, changing the organizations. So we every day are moving, and I think operators are continuously transforming and trying to adapt to all these changes. We were in the past very much organizing siloed organizations, and now we are more on data-driven, cloud-native oriented ones. The location of data and the sharing of data has also changed dramatically. So we are moving from closed gardens to very open data sharing spaces, intensive data processing and continuous learning process through automation, and of course, changing the way we engage with customers. Okay, so as you can see, everything is changing in this digital transformation. The way we build services, the technology we use, the models with which we use to relate to the others, the activities and organizations, the processes, and even the relationship with the customers. But I'm not going to be talking about all this in the presentation. I would like to focus on a few things. So basically services, technologies, models, so how we evolve of this network, and also what is the change in the operations of these networks that we have foreseen. So, and the first thing is services, okay? So if we look at the perspective in the previous generations of technologies we were using in the networks, we were basically looking at what were the network characteristics, what could the network do, and based on that, understand the services we could deliver. And they were very limited, okay? There was no chance to change what the network could offer, and the characteristics were pretty well determined. We're moving to something different. That is, we have use cases, we have problems to solve that we want to solve with technology, and we are asking the network, what is the kind of characteristics I need in the network to deliver those services? So we are moving to paradigms like network as a service or network slicing, in which the network is a platform that can be adapted in terms of parameters, performance, and service characteristics to address the specific needs of certain service categories. And this is a dramatical change in the way you build the network, in the way you make them accessible for customers, partners, and third parties. Another aspect is the nature of services we offer. Okay, we have traditionally offered only connectivity services based on closed networks, based on proprietary technologies, with very long technology cycles, decades in many cases, and much longer life even. So we have our central offices full of historical elements. And we are moving to a different landscape of services where we are solution providers. We need to deliver use cases that has value beyond connectivity. And we are not doing this alone. So we are not the ones delivering the services. We will do with third parties. We have open networks. We have very short cycles, in some cases months, and also short life. So services can also be withdrawn in months. And this requires an agile service development process. The setup of an ecosystem of partners, the right one. And when I refer to partners, it's not only technology providers, it's also service providers, it's even other operators. You need an operator platform. That is something that we are designing and trying to build. That is a way for operator to expose the network capabilities so that together with third parties, these use cases can be developed and deployed. And a fundamental piece of this is the orchestration and automation mechanisms that we are setting up. This is changing, of course, the way service development works, and we are gaining speed that is coming from the nature, the cloud nature of the architecture that we are building. And sometimes this requires even a change in the organization, okay? Like the one Telefonica made last year with the creation of Telefonica Tech, that is a specific subsidiary working on the technology and service development part, looking at providing solutions to our customers and not just the traditional telco services. And this also represents a change, you know, in the way operators are participating in this service lifecycle and this platform business. With previous technologies, when we had the networks very closed, operators were playing basically a role of making possible for our end users, our customers, to access the applications that were hosted over the top of the networks in cloud provider platforms. That is where service providers were hosting their services and solutions. So this has been the traditional way of doing things. 5G brings an opportunity that is placing workloads and computing capacity also in the edge of the network, in parts of the network. This means that the network operator will have somehow to provide these computing capabilities also at the network level. This means that service providers will be also able to deploy solutions that are somehow embedded in the network and accessing both the computing capabilities and the connectivity capabilities of network operators and network operators bring. And this means that we will have a different participation in the value chain. Okay. There are different ways, as you know, of providing these computing capabilities. Sometimes it's partnering with cloud providers and integrating their solutions and technology in your networks, and in other cases, deploying your own cloud computing capabilities. But this is changing probably the value chains and the participation of the network operator in this kind of platform business. And let's have a look now at the architecture. Okay, so we have been for many years historically working on vertical architectures based on specific appliances that were delivering specific services, has specific purpose hardware, specific purpose software, specific management tools, and that has been historically a case. No? We gave a very important step in 2012 when ETSI launched the NFB group, and we started a process to integrate IT paradigms in the network. Okay, the first step was separating hardware from software, virtualizing the hardware, and make the network functions work on that virtualized environment as software modules, VNFs. That was an important step, probably the first step in our digitalization of the network. A second important one is the separation of the control and data planes that is making the network more programmable, because we have separated the intelligence from the network equipment to a central controller, and this is making the network more easily programmable and controllable from a central point. We have given another step after virtualization, that has been disaggregation. This has been also facilitated quite a lot by the virtualization. So as the network functions are software, we can change the architecture of that software to a microservice-based architecture. And this is allowing us to make everything open. We are opening the RAN, we are opening the fixed access network with the open VLT, OLTs. We are opening the transport elements as well, opening the core. So basically everything is getting open by changing to a modular architecture based on microservices. This is also facilitated by the introduction of Kubernetes, and now there is a second step in this virtualization to more advanced virtualization techniques and cloud techniques with the cloud native network functions. This architecture and this way of building software is facilitating the provision of open interfaces to be able to connect the different modules of a solution. And this is something that happens in OSS VSS, but also is happening in the network functions, in the network architecture, that allows the network to be open. The new technologies like 5G are coming with these open interfaces. So the network spatial function in the 3GPP specifications is an example, but there are many others in different standardization bodies. We also have seen that the combination of this software-defined networking and the capability to expose APIs are bringing the opportunity to offer the network as a service. And this is a very interesting way for operators to monetize their network capabilities and expose them to third parties, and hopefully at some point in time monetize them. The next big thing that needs to happen is the orchestration of all these different clouds that may happen because of this migration. We may have network functions or network workloads in public clouds, in private clouds, in telco cloud, in the telco edge, on base stations, on premise, in the facilities of the customer. So we may have at the end a big amount of different clouds and workloads that can be placed in some of them depending on certain conditions. And this will need a strong orchestration capabilities. The telco, as many other industry solutions, needs to be multi-cloud and enjoy all the benefits of the different cloud environments. And orchestrating this and making this optimal is a key task of telecom operators. Once we solve this orchestration, we have learned how to expose the capabilities. We know how to place the different software modules in the right place. We will be ready for network slicing. So we are still quite far from this. So we are moving in the right direction. But network slicing means an orchestrated combination of next generation core, radio intelligent controller, software-defined network controller for the transport network, and a proper and automatic management of a complete network end-to-end. And this is what is taking us to the target. No? That is a totally different to what you could see was our starting point. No? An autonomous network, no? A network that is able to evolve the functionality based on the introduction of new modules, that connect with the existing functionality through the APIs and is easily integratable in the network architecture, that bring also with the standard ways of monitoring and access to data, that brings also capabilities to learn how it works and understand how to configure, operate and maintain that new technology in an automatic way. And this is a bit the path, no? We are on the process to get there. Whether we are doing good or bad, we will see. We are now in a moment in which we can start exposing probably network services. First step to network slicing, but I think the orchestration aspect is probably a key one. Okay. And the interesting thing of all this is the speed of this digital transformation. So we are moving from a hardware innovation or appliance-based innovation that was taking decades to an innovation that is coming in months. So from one year to another, your perspective of the roadmap to this autonomous network changes, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, but landscape changes very quickly. And we are moving from a previous way of doing, based on consensus, experts of certain domains getting together and defining some standards with a long term for practice acquisition, to a new way of doing that is basically by adoption. Whoever can brings the first solution that works and proves it works, and the others adopt it, is setting the reference. And in this sense, it's very important the open source communities, where you are able to influence to a big community to foster the adoption of your developments. The relevance comes here with software and cloud experts. It's not so important the domain. Of course, it is important, but you have tools to learn and get skills on a certain domain, assisted by the artificial intelligence. In the past, you need a long time of practice. Now, assisted by data analytics and artificial intelligence, you can get that practice much faster. And then your skills on software and cloud are extremely relevant. And well, let's have a look at how this is done. No? What are the tools to do that? So there is a huge effort in the industry for cloudification and integration for all this process, no? in all domains. So there is a part that is standardization. No? And standardization keeps on working and keeps on delivering reference specifications and architectures. So this is something that we will still need. We have also an evolution of these bodies, and we are progressively having new players here setting the references. One case is Oran a couple of years ago. Anuket yesterday, that was launched yesterday as a merge of OPNFB, as you know, and CNTT. So we still have actors setting the references and the standards, but it is not only that. You also need joint development and experimentation, and this is also changing the way we do things. So we have environments like Telecom Infra project, developing working in Oran, in Open RAN, and also in Open Transport and on other areas. We have the GSMA trying to do a job on edge computing, trying to harmonize as well the specifications that the different bodies are putting in place, and also huge efforts in Linux Foundation, as you know, also to get reference architecture for the edge. And in the particular case of Telefonica, we are also particularly doing quite a lot of collaboration. So we have a couple of projects in transport. One is called Open Fusion, looking at disaggregation of the transport network. eFusion, looking at as the software-defined networking. We have on Oran plenty of collaboration with technology partners, with operators, and with different entities that we announced in the last year. And also very recently, and we are collaborating in developments with many other operators. And let me just go very quickly through the operations, and I will finish with this. So we are starting with resource-intensive processes. Typically, operators have thousands of employees on the field doing a lot of activity. And the evolution is to something more autonomous with a very simple rollout designs and operations that are self-serve, self-optimized, and self-healing. We started with the evolution of fixed networks to passive optical networks, where there is no active component in the field. From the home to the central office, everything is passive, is fiber optics, and this has reduced by more than 30–40% the cost of maintenance and by 80% the faults. We have also evolved the central offices to data centers, started with our Unica project in 2017. We have now 50 network data centers, more than 60 data centers worldwide already virtualized. We are also working since 2018 in the optimization of the RAN design to open architectures. And this is helping us in making a rollout that is easier and faster and requires less field force. We have also historically been working a lot on automation. The first time we used it at the scale was in 2003 with a rule-based automatic monitoring and alarm management. In 2010, we had also a scale deployment of artificial intelligence for travel ticketing and resolution for corporate customer services. We have been applying data-driven planning and artificial intelligence-based operations since 2018, making a lot of effort on making assurance easier and faster and reducing the amount of remote operation activity. And this is the target for us at this moment, no? Evolving to this autonomous network, introducing the capability to make networks self-serve, self-configured, self-optimized, and self-healed. This is a bit the evolution on operation side. And just to conclude, to say digital transformation is not only a question of technology, it's not only a question of activity processes, it's also a cultural change that we are living every day. We see the landscape changing every day. You need to be every day updated on the evolution of new technology. There are a lot of disruptive moves, and digital transformation is not just it's a journey that will never end. So I think the changing culture we need to assume in the telco sector. Digital transformation is here to stay, and we need to get used to this dynamic change that this is bringing. And that's it.
Juan Carlos, that's great. I really loved the kind of mind map drawing of the architecture. I thought that was a really good way to look at it. Thank you. So we have some questions for you. One question is, how does Telefonica manage all the site information in the network in the digitalization flow? So when upgrades are done from third parties, is it in the digital acceptance process flow? This is quite a complicated question. Or
very well. What is the kind of information?
So the question is, how does Telefonica manage all site information in the network in the digitalization flow? For example, I think when upgrades are done from third parties.
Okay, so we had to introduce what we call a fast data, that is a data layer that is harmonizing the way we capture data from the network and analyze, assess it, use it for learning, inferencing, and automatic decision making, and the closed loop automation. And this is done by standardizing this data layer. I think it's a first step in the automation process to have the chance to incorporate in your databases or data lakes all this data and have the mechanisms to process, to filter them, to process them, and make them useful for learning, inferencing, and automation.
Okay, and another question is, do you work with OpenStack providers or VMware? And if it's the first, that is OpenStack providers, is bare metal working?
Sorry,
does bare metal work if you use OpenStack providers? if you work with OpenStack providers? Does bare metal work, or do you work with VMware?
So we have VMware solutions, we have OpenStack over bare metal, so we have in general several virtualization environments. I think one of the conclusions after the first wave of virtualization is that using a single virtualization environment was not a good idea, for many reasons. No, one is the need for business continuity and service continuity to diversify your supply. So you need to have several solutions that are compatible. So for the network, the basic solution is OpenStack, even the OpenStack from VMware. But we may have several flavors of OpenStack, and this is the current setup. What you need is a common, I mentioned that earlier, a common orchestration layer on top of those different virtualization environments. And what you need is to have them under control of this orchestration layer, that is the one that will help you to have different environments for the execution of your network workloads. Think that now, in addition to this OpenStack environment, we will have the Kubernetes environment. You will have even environments with Open RAN of containers over bare metal. And this is what I mentioned to you. You will have different kinds of cloud flavors. And the key element here is this orchestration of this multi-cloud environment.
Okay, Juan Carlos, there is another question, but I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to take it offline because we're running rather late. I'd just like to thank you for a very insightful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.